deep breath. The only thing that's too long that comes to mind is Peter Jackson's King Kong. That's too long by about 45 minutes to an hour. So anyway, let me go in and say hello to the live chat folks. We have Rui, Megalithic Yard, Jackpot, Johnny-Side, D. Dorothy. Scroll down a little bit there. Todor Kolev. John Foldown was here. I don't know if he's still here. Tim Houston. And let's see, some more folks jumped in. Nick N., of course. Nick, I worked a little bit on the Russian Chronoplane, and I painted the Stegosaurus over the weekend. And let's see, Tessa1111 is here. Marsh Oak Dojo, Tim Pruitt. Michael Woods McCausland. Ari Bavel. David Paff is here. Hello, David. Renee is here. Hello, Renee. I think I said Ari, right? Billy W. Barry7676. And I think I got everybody who's there now. And more people, of course, will just pile in. Folks, I want to let you know that we have, as requested, Dutch Droom Denker is here. And we've got more merch that we're getting out there. Malia has put out a really cool looking coffee mug, which I think I'm going to be ordering mine tonight or tomorrow, and you'll be seeing me here soon using it. It's a Nimzacon coffee mug, but we're going to be coming out with, shirts, hats, tumblers, travel tumblers, that kind of thing. But, we've had some of you folks in the live chat and some of the attendees of the Nimzacon, and people over the last couple of years have been saying, merch, get the merch out there. So we're working on it. And, there's going to be a variety of things, like I said, hats, T-shirts, mugs, tumblers, whatever else we can think of. Because, merch is one of the things that contributes to staying in business and being able to do the things that I do, which is, going through history books. And look at that. That's just one volume. What this is a 1962 edition, special edition by Heritage Press. Nothing to do with the fascist Heritage Foundation, which even I, as a conservative libertarian, really don't trust them guys. But this is Heritage Press, Lewis and Clark Expedition journals, and this is a great edition of this. So I see Johnny-Side saying he needs an actual size arrow. I am going to be trying to market a model size arrow, but first I'm going to build one. Malia has challenged me to build one because a very talented craft artisan up in Sonora, she did a really cool model of one of the arrows that I have pictures of. I think I posted it, and you guys might have seen it in one of the videos. So anyway, yeah. So the merch, the merch is one of those things we put out there to be able to keep the lights on and to keep the rent paid. Buy the groceries and make our way through life, because I have chosen to be a writer. These are the things one must do to augment these things. The book selling, which 22 years, can you believe it? This month marks 22 years that I have had this publishing company. And I don't intend to stop it now, no matter what goes on in the market, the country, the world. Excuse me while I take a sip of water from my pickle jug. That's right. So, okay. Let's see. Did I cover everything? Today, as you see by the title, I'm talking about the Esoteric Napoleon 2. Now, many people haven't read Esoteric Napoleon 1. And the folks that are regulars around here, they know that one thing I don't do when I write books is I don't do a reader's homework for them, in the sense that when I come out with a second or third volume on a particular subject, I don't just rehash everything in the previous volume to make it easy. That would make each subsequent volume bigger than the one before it, and it would get ridiculously out of hand. Empire of the Wheel 1 is, I think, around 400 pages. And yes, really, to get the full context of Empire of the Wheel 2 or 3, you've got to read number 1. Same thing with the Esoteric Napoleon. The new one, really, you can read it separately, but it would be smart. At some point, it would be smart for you to read the first one. I would get your hands on the first one and take a read on it. I don't know why this is open. I'm going to put a little bookmark in here so that for whatever reason that I bumped my monitor there. Oh my gosh, where are my little? Oh, there's one. See, Secret of the Amazon Queen bookmark. Put that right there. But this is considered by readers one of my best books ever, and it's certainly one of my most popular books, and it deserves multiple volumes because the story of Napoleon Bonaparte, you guys have heard me say it, we were taught for 200 years a product of a slanderous product of the British historical narrative, to be honest. And that was to always demonize Napoleon Bonaparte. They, of course, did this during his lifetime because, quite frankly, they were intimidated. Okay. Now, again, we might have some new folks in the audience, and we do have folks over in the UK who are regular followers, and they know me. They know that when I talk about the this or the that, I'm talking about the elitists. I'm not talking about the regular people. I think I have a background issue here. Let me see. Let me fix my camera. Hold on a second. There we go. My eye catches that and it just drives me nuts. So when you hear me say the British, I'm talking about the monarchy. I'm talking about the money people, City of London. I'm talking about the oligarchical elitist types, not the regular folks, because the regular folks in England and elsewhere in what we call the UK today, they were leaning towards liking Napoleon. Once they got over all that bullshit that their leaders were telling them that Napoleon was going to, eat babies and all this crap. One of the reasons why they, at the last minute, decided when they arrested Napoleon and took him to St. Helena was they were scared to bring him to British soil because there were already people in the public. They were already curious and anxious to see Napoleon, to really be there when he arrived. And that was the original plan, was to bring him to, English soil and keep him under house arrest on an estate, up country. Well, at the last minute, that plan was changed because they were afraid that he would win over the English people, because they were just hell bent on empire, just like the United States has been hell bent on empire, increasingly since the end of World War II. We have a lot in common with the regular British folks on that account. Their country went through this must have our bloody empire stuff, and we are going through that in our times. But anyway, 200 years of propaganda about Napoleon Bonaparte, and historians, since really increasingly since around the 1960s and 70s, have increasingly tried to be more fair, more honest about Napoleon. And one of the great advocates of Napoleon Bonaparte's, image rehabilitation is the guy who wrote this book, Andrew Roberts. Now, this isn't the only book he's written about Napoleon. You see how thick it is. There he is, right there. If you can, and he's British himself, and some of his traditional mainstream history colleagues, they don't like that he comes out in favor of Napoleon. I mean, I've had people in here in the live chat, when I've talked about this, get on me. He was such a rotten guy. Tell that to the Russians when blah blah blah. Well, read the history, because then you'll learn what Napoleon did and what he actually did not do. Okay. You guys have heard me talk about this. I go into it in this book. Read this book and you'll catch up on my opinion of Napoleon Bonaparte. My opinion is favorable. Okay? So don't throw at me all that bullshit that you learned in elementary school or high school. Okay? Or in some cases, even college. But most people, when they come at me for my favorable opinion of Napoleon Bonaparte, they're spouting crap they learned in elementary school and high school, or mostly what they've seen in movies and cartoons, believe it or not. Okay? They haven't really done a fair assessment. I've read thousands of pages, like I think it's around 5,000 or 6,000 pages I read just, going into this book on Napoleon. Numerous biographies from haters, from advocates, and everything in between. Okay. And I've come out with a favorable opinion of Napoleon Bonaparte. Was he perfect? No. You guys know how I feel about this. Well, they got to be perfect before they get praise. Screw that. There's not a goddamn one of us walking this planet who can claim perfection. Okay. And if we held off any praise because we were waiting for perfection, okay, this world would be a crappier place than it is. All right. So I'm not one of those that there's got to be perfection before I give a little bit of praise. And Napoleon Bonaparte was truly a great man. And that really just scared the hell out of the English monarchy and oligarchy and the other European monarchies, dynasties, and their oligarchy. Okay. He scared the hell out of them because he was brilliant. And again, the reasons why I'm saying this, I go over that in this book. And so I focused in the Esoteric Napoleon 2, the one that is available right now in pre-order. You can go pre-order it right now, and it's going to be $3 off the cover price if you get it now. The book will be released officially around Thanksgiving. Okay? So you can still get, for another month, you can still get the reduced price. Okay? If you pre-order Esoteric Napoleon 2 at walterbosley.com. Okay? And when Malia pops in, she'll put, links and stuff up there. But the Esoteric Napoleon 2 allowed me to really focus on a particular thing And that was my curiosity about Napoleon and the Louisiana Territory. Okay. This actually is what started me on the path that led to the first book, the Louisiana Territory issue. It's the first thing I discussed with Joseph Farrell, my gosh, way back 10 years ago in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. You know, we were talking about Napoleon and the Louisiana Territory, and also the bit about his night in the pyramid. I had not dove in to the details on that until I started working on the first volume of Esoteric Napoleon at that time. But the Louisiana Territory intrigued us both. And that led to when I visited Joseph, and he took a couple of us, myself and our friend Ernesto, over to his favorite bookstore, which is this wonderful emporium of used books. I found the Bonaparte in Egypt book, which I had heard about, but I'd never found a copy. And there was one copy, so I scooped that up. And the result of reading that led to, oh my God, I got to write a book on this. I've got to keep pulling threads on this and pursue it. So I jumped in and started reading more and more on Napoleon Bonaparte. And the more I did, the more it was a sure thing that, okay, he deserves a volume in the Secret Mission series. Now, remember, Esoteric Napoleon Volume 1, because I kind of pulled a fast one on everybody. The cover doesn't say Volume 1, but I put it on the title page, Volume 1. Everyone went, ooh, there's going to be more. And I just lost my thought on where I was going with that. Okay, anyway, the Secret Mission series, that's where I was at. The Secret Mission series. This is book 4. The first one being the Cabrillo book, the second one, the Burton book, right? Lost Expedition of Sir Richard Francis Burton. The third one, Destination Carcosa, about Ambrose Bierce. And so this is a series which, yes, there will definitely be another. It'll be, Veiled Destinies is number 5, kind of a, let's put it all in context what the first 4 are about. But number 6, or whatever, there's going to be one about Petoskey, of course. And by the way, Petoskey popped up again in the Esoteric Volume 2. You'll read about that when you read the book. But I realized that Napoleon Bonaparte really fit the series, the Secret Mission series. It's about individuals, historical figures who we know about, okay, who had exploits that we might not have known about, okay, who did things that were a little mysterious. With Bierce, there he is living in the heart of the mystery airship country, and didn't write a word really about. He wrote one essay about this real half-assed thing about, with an attitude of if God intended man to fly, he'd give him wings, that kind of it, and that was weird for him to express that attitude. And he knew he was employed by 2 men who were known to be involved with the airships, and yet Ambrose Bierce, that's a mystery. And I go into that in Destination Carcosa, and of course his disappearance. So with Napoleon, the mystery was initially what happened to him that night in the pyramid. And as I learned more about him, it was, wait a minute, here's a man who his true interest we are not ever taught generally. So what was he really about? And as I read and got deeper into the topic and his story, I learned that what he was about is why I called the book The Esoteric Napoleon, because it's esoteric stuff. This man was much more interested in ancient history and technologies and ancient civilization and in the mysteries of archaeology than he was even in politics or military issues. Believe it or not, Napoleon Bonaparte to this day is still considered a military genius and is taught in war colleges to this day. But his first and greatest love was this esoteric stuff. And I thought, wow, that's really intriguing. So what that did was that flavor, I see someone with all caps. I'm on a roll, and for about the first hour, Marsh Oak, I do, or Tim Pruitt, I do a roll, and then I open it up to questions. So save that question for later when I open it up. So I thought, well, a man with Napoleon's esoteric interests, what was really going on with the Louisiana Purchase? Or no, the question was, what's going on with the Louisiana Purchase, if anything, is there, where Napoleon is concerned? Because Joseph Farrell and I had wondered that. Well, the more I learned about Napoleon and his real interests, that just kind of pushed me more towards the question, trying to answer the question, was there anything to this? And then I hit on it, something that I talk about in this book. I learned that in 1802, Napoleon Bonaparte ordered his Secretary of the Navy to deploy a team in secrecy to explore the Louisiana Purchase before they handed it over, sold it to the United States. So it was sold to the United States in 1803, and he sends, according to historical document, the historical record, he ordered French Naval Secretary Decrès to send in a team under secrecy to go find something in the Louisiana Territory. So they had about a year to do this if it happened, but there is no further comment or record that I have found in all the research I've done about what, if anything, was found. Certainly, even nothing about was the team truly deployed? Did this really happen? I think we have every reason, just as much reason to think it did happen as we have to dismiss it. You know, there are people that say, if the record doesn't exist, it didn't happen. You know, just like people say, you know, mostly jokingly, you know, no pictures, it didn't happen. Well, you guys know what I think about that. Oh, by the way, if you're new here, the Walter Bosley channel, the Walter Bosley books, the world of Walter Bosley, guess what we let ourselves do? We let ourselves engage in hypotheticals. We let ourselves engage in some speculation. Speculation is not a dirty word. You guys know that the skeptic troll certainty fetish guys, you know, have had quite a big say in this kind of community for years now. And there's a lot of writers, a lot of hosts and stuff that have let themselves, I think, be intimidated, or over time, you know, there were some that let themselves be intimidated by this certainty fetish crowd, but not here. Because, you know, I learned this practice of pulling those threads, of throwing the spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks, of thinking outside the box, of engaging in speculative hypotheses. I learned that, folks, as a federal agent, a federal investigator. Because let me tell you, going after a spy is a different animal than going after a white collar criminal, you know, somebody who commits fraud, a murderer, what have you. Those are crimes that have or should have definitive evidence, and that's what you're looking for, okay, in that. Unless you're looking for a serial killer, and usually it's not the killing that, where you engage in the speculation. It's in trying to identify, a killer who's yet to be identified. Well, it's very similar to hunting spies. You have to throw spaghetti on the wall, because with a spy, what you have is you're hunting a ghost. Okay, there are telltale signs that you have a spy. Okay, and so you have to come around that spy in indirect ways. So you learn the distinct value of speculative hypotheses in getting at the ghost. You know that not every idea you come up with is going to be the right one or be real or true. You know this going into it. But what it does is you come up with, okay, maybe this is the angle to go in. So you go in at that angle, and you know what? You know what turns up a lot of times, sometimes? Evidence. There is some evidence that you won't find unless you come in at a different angle. If you go your whole time just following the linear thread of this, that, or the other, guess what? First of all, you're going to have a bunch of unsolved cases. Second of all, you're going to miss evidence that could make or break the case. Okay? So I learned in a very serious profession the value of speculative hypotheses. So I'm, compared to most people in this community, I'm uniquely qualified to wield speculative hypotheses, okay? Because I've used it on much more serious matters than trying to figure out the historical mysteries of historical figures, okay? But it's a tried and true formula. It works, okay? Okay, now you still, if you do turn up some evidence, you still got to put that evidence to the test, okay? So that's why I go about things the way I go about them. And that's what we do here at the Walter Bosley channel. That's what I do in my books. And if you're a certainty fetish addict, I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to enjoy it here. Okay, you're welcome to stay always, but you get snarky or trolly, and out you go. So there we go. There's sometimes I have to cover these things because we are getting new people all the time, and I like to be clear about what goes on here. So with Esoteric Napoleon 2, I pretty much keep it on the topic of the Louisiana Purchase. Now, in the book, I go into what, did it happen? What might they have been looking for? What might Napoleon have sent them in to find? What might they have found? Okay. And it gets really interesting. A chapter that I just added some stuff to, some new data to last night, was really, really interesting to me. I really enjoyed rounding that chapter off, because Napoleon in his personal life, he had some reasons to dig into ancient history and to look for some things in North America that might have a link to his own ancestry, believe it or not. And it's really fascinating how that comes together and connects. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, because I like to save things for the book, but I will say that how it pivoted from being something he would find in Europe to something he would find in North America. You could guess it has to do with the Knights Templar, possibly. Okay. So, the book goes into a little bit into Knights Templar stuff that I've talked about in the 5th book of the Secret Mission series, in Veiled Destinies, which after this one, and stuff I talk about in this one. It it also turns out that Thomas Jefferson, he had some real curious interests that I knew that Jefferson was into science and history and all that. I didn't know some of the specifics about what's in his library. And it was enlightening, and it made him resonate even more with Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, you got to remember, Thomas Jefferson, he went through a brief period where France was a place he loved. He had been there, as a diplomat for a while. He loved France, but he went through a brief period where he didn't trust France, because in France's war with England, there was a brief time when there was what's called the quasi-war. But it didn't last long, because for the most part back then, France and the United States loved each other. And Napoleon especially loved the United States and was a great admirer of Thomas Jefferson. And they, it was mutual. But Jefferson and Napoleon shared these interests on esoteric matters. And at NIMSACON, I learned even more details about something regarding Thomas Jefferson and the Louisiana Territory in the presentation given by Dave Allen on the local history. He was talking about Jefferson believing from sources, living sources, who told him that mammoths, prehistoric, woolly mammoth, that they still were alive, living in the western part of North America and in the territory. And Jefferson, one of his instructions was to bring back a live mammoth. Okay, now what they eventually found were, the bones, the remains of the mastodon, which is, not exactly a mammoth, but, for a lay person, they'd probably say it's close enough. But still, there were remains of mastodon bones and teeth and such found. I believe if you go to, I think it's either Luray Caverns in Virginia or Shenandoah Caverns, that they have you look down this one crevice, and there's a fossil from a mastodon down in there. Now, when I say mastodon, not to be confused with the metal group. I went to a rock show one time. Mastodon was one of the groups. Five Finger Death Punch was another. I went there mainly. The big headliner was Rob Zombie, which was fantastic. He was great live. But Mastodon was the worst. Oh my God, they carried the loud thing to 12, and it was just an obnoxious. I don't like Mastodon, the group, but I digress. So I found other things that Thomas Jefferson was interested in. He had books on flight, airship flight. Now remember, with the Montgolfier brothers and other Europeans who were, advancing hot air balloon technology, this was a thing back in the 18th century and before. It's when it actually started in, Western civilization history. But there was one particular guy who I talk about in Esoteric Napoleon Volume 2, who Jefferson had his book, and he built what looks like, it's an elongated dirigible, okay, with the canopy in the center bottom. And this thing was powered flight. It was powered, and it was steerable. And it did a 45-minute successful flight. And Jefferson had a book that in his library, a book that was written about this, how it was done and stuff. So Jefferson was interested in, that kind of thing. He was interested in fossils. He was interested in, the things that would suggest he was also interested in lost civilizations, things like that. Well, I wondered, okay, what all, as I said before, what all might Napoleon have wanted the secret team to look for? Well, ruins, right? Ruins of what we would call lost civilizations, something predating the known native tribal cultures. Now, remember, folks, don't get offended by bringing that up, because there's a lot of, Native Americans who they said this thing or that thing was built before our time. We didn't build this, it was the people before us. So you usually only get your mainstream academicians who defend the position of, it couldn't have been anybody before them. But this crowd here, I know the crowd I'm playing to, you guys are beyond that nonsense. You know that, civilizations come and go and things like that. Well, one of the things that I think Napoleon sent the team to look for was ruins of past civilizations. Now, we know there's Cahokia, which is technically outside of the bounds of the Louisiana Territory, but it's just like when a Vietnam veteran says, has pictures of himself in Angkor Wat, but swears he never went to Cambodia during the war. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. I'm sure that even if the charter, I'm convinced that even though the charter was the Louisiana Territory and there was reason to stay within those bounds, you see, Jefferson sent Meriwether Lewis on a secret mission. I have the proof in the book. Okay. Meriwether Lewis was indeed given a list of objectives and had a mission other than what Clark, other than what Clark was doing that we all know about. All right. The journals are full of Clark. Oh, Captain Lewis came back from 9 days away from the, him and the 4 guys he took with him. They were gone for 9 days in the wilderness, and now they're back with not a word about what they were doing for those 9 days or whatever. I mean, we're talking an instance that there's 18 instances that I cite in my notes and talk about in the book where Lewis did this. You're reading the journals of Lewis and Clark, and it's Clark and Sacagawea and this guy, Mr. So-and-so, and blah, 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 and Sergeant Goss and yada, yada, yada. And then, Captain Lewis returned from his recon, or Captain Lewis, Captain Lewis departed again. We rarely hear. I think there's only a couple of times where the journal stays with Lewis and tells us what Lewis was doing. Folks, hello, wake up. Meriwether Lewis was on a secret mission. And when you consider that only a few years after the Lewis and Clark expedition exploring the Louisiana Territory after the purchase, he was murdered. He died under very questionable circumstances. A forensic examination was done in the 1990s, and they determined this man did not commit suicide. And I know people always cite, well, Jefferson believed he committed suicide. Well, I disagree with Thomas Jefferson on that point. Meriwether Lewis was likely murdered. A mere 3 years after the expedition? And when you have Nicholas Biddle in the mix, I talk about Biddle in this, okay? Biddle, I categorize him with Alexander Hamilton. I know all you fans of that Hamilton musical, that's a bunch of propaganda. Alexander Hamilton, I'm sorry. I'm going to be an asshole here, but there are some days where I really, truly think Aaron Burr did this country a favor. Alexander Hamilton, very much a mixed bag, very much a central banker ally. Okay. Alexander Hamilton was not a fan of the common American. And I put Nicholas Biddle in the same category. Why is Nicholas Biddle important? Why am I bringing him up? Well, I talk about that in the first volume. But just to remind you, the journals were not published until after Meriwether Lewis died, after he was murdered. And as you see here, the journals of the expedition of Captains Lewis and Clark, blah, 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 edited by Nicholas Biddle. Okay? Nicholas Biddle, in my opinion, I talk about it in here. I talk about it again in volume 2. Nicholas Biddle got his hands on these journals because he was looking for something. He was either looking for something to take advantage of, or he was looking for something to hide. Because I do think there were things hidden from the public. Again, these journals were not published till, 1814, I think. And Lewis was dead. And oh, by the way, I talk about it in Esoteric Napoleon Volume 2. Lewis did keep his own journals. And to this day, we don't have the advantage of seeing those. Another little tidbit. Jefferson provided Lewis with a cipher so that they could communicate to each other secretly. If he found something that he felt couldn't wait till he got back to report directly, he was provided a cipher so that he could write a dispatch and have it sent as quickly as possible, as quickly as was allowed, was possible in those days, to get to Washington, to get in Jefferson's hands. Okay? The historical records basically say, the National Archives says, to date, there have been no documents surfaced written in cipher between Meriwether Lewis and Thomas Jefferson on this. Well, folks, just because they haven't surfaced doesn't mean they don't exist. Sorry about that. We had a spike in heat out here again, a little dehydrated. So this has intrigued the hell out of me. If this was going on between Meriwether Lewis and Thomas Jefferson, what was Jefferson expecting Lewis to find? What was he really looking for? And are we to assume that Napoleon didn't have the same suspicions about the Louisiana Territory? We know for a fact that Napoleon ordered a secret team. Okay, now I go into the presence of French forces in the Americas at this time, at 1802, because there was the Dominican uprising that France was putting down, and Napoleon flubbed that, and he admits that in his own writings. He was flubbing that, but 2/3 of French naval resources were in the Caribbean. And they were using that as a staging area for a massive expedition to India, because Napoleon wanted to establish diplomatic relations with India. And he wanted to stage the expeditions to that end in the Americas, a friendly part of the world, friendly to him and France. And so it was while all these resources were there that Napoleon told Secretary Decrès, send in a secret team to explore the Louisiana Territory before I go releasing it. And that's all we hear. I haven't found yet any further evidence of it happening, but I think it did. I think it did. It doesn't make sense that it would not. You know, when in 1802, when Napoleon Bonaparte commanded something, it would get done. So again, what might he have been looking for? Well, I talked about this in the last couple of months, how the same with the megalithic ruins around the world. There's signs here in North America and South America. South America, big time. We know this, right? Pumapunku and, all the other places. North America has its architectural anomalies as well. And, Cahokia is considered one. And you guys know that I recently posed the question, are the Tartaria people kind of on the right track, but mislabeling what they think they're seeing? Now, I mentioned the T word. I'm going to emphasize again, the idea that the buildings built for the 1893 Chicago World's Fair were actually, older, ancient, or whatever, older Tartaria buildings that somebody just, that's bullshit, folks. Okay. I know for a fact that that's bullshit. Unfortunately, that crowd, they're the type of crowd that even when you present them with the evidence, that it's just, question the evidence. Their theory is never unprovable. Okay, whatever. But you guys know that I think that in a general way, there's a small nugget of truth to what those folks, propose. And the nugget of truth is that I do think there was some civilization present in these places. And right now, I think it was the lost Vedic civilization. I lean towards that. But in the book, even though I go into that and present what I think is evidence of the Vedic civilization, I think you guys will like what I present as evidence for that it was a Vedic. We're talking proto-India or even pre-India as we know it. Okay, we're talking going back into the Vedas, the Mahabharata, things like that, during the Atlantean days, so to speak. I do think that Napoleon, with his personal interest and drive to make connection with India, I think that could have been one of the things he was looking for, that even he suspected that perhaps, these very ancient, lost Vedic explorers came to North America and that he might find the evidence. Now, I do point out what he could have found that I consider potential evidence. But it could have been relics too. There could have been some small relic that was transportable in a soldier's, pouch bag or rucksack, what have you. Or even sketches of some type of feature carved into a rock or built up, that the native cultures had, built on top of. It just like in Cuzco. In Cuzco and other places, you can see the Inca construction above the more mysterious megalithic construction, and the Inca construction is much more primitive, but it's more historically recent. Those kinds of things he could have been looking for. He would have had the team looking for. So, the question is, what else could Napoleon have been looking for? There is another possibility that has nothing to do with the Vedic possibility. So I do go in a direction. It's not just all Vedic stuff, okay? There are other possibilities, and I present those. And I think you'll find them really interesting because it brings in the Rennes-le-Chateau enigma as well. So, yes, in the Esoteric Napoleon Volume 2, I do present why I'm convinced that the secret French expedition, the team, it really happened. And I think that they found something. I think they found something. It might not have been what Napoleon was hoping to find, but I think it was something, because it could be argued that if they found the thing he was looking for, then he could go ahead and sell the territory, right? He found something he was looking for. So, okay, let's sell it to Jefferson and the Americans, right? So there is that possibility covered in the book. And then Jefferson, just like I'm sitting here and you guys are here and we're wondering about this, Jefferson himself probably wondered, well, shoot, what's in this territory? I wonder if Napoleon found anything of esoteric interest. Where might they have been looking? What might be there? We never know what kind of secret communications might have gone on between Jefferson and Napoleon Bonaparte. That's just it. The gaps, the holes in this are filled with possibility, just because of the nature of the situation and the circumstances. So if Napoleon got away with a relic, what did Lewis and Clark, specifically Meriwether Lewis? Because Clark, in my opinion, had nothing to do with the secret mission and would not have been so involved, if at all, with any such finds. I think that was all Lewis. And I think that's why, I think it has to do with why Lewis was murdered just a few years after the expedition. But I think you guys will find it really interesting, the possibility that is alternative to the Vedic idea that I'm leaning into that these days, because quite frankly, I'm finding a lot of evidence for it. It makes a lot of sense to me. But the other possibility for what Napoleon might have been looking for is very strong. Okay, it has to do with a personal connection to what he was looking for. I'm well, right now I'm waiting for some things I put out there to come in to determine if, in my opinion, they found what he was looking for or not. On the personal issue, which I go into in the book, I got to save some stuff for the book, folks. The personal issue that might have been driving him to send this team in, logic dictates that if he had found, what I propose he was looking for, I think he would have made a big show of it. I do. It makes sense that he would have made a big show of it. And of course, we get nothing. So, you have to consider, well, maybe he didn't find that, but what did he find? Another thing that could have been of interest to Napoleon, sending this secret team into Louisiana Territory, could have, believe it or not, could have a lost technology angle, a connection to what happened to him that night in the pyramid. Now, I go into that in here, the first volume. But something that he might have experienced in the pyramid or was revealed to him, what have you, might have a connection to why he sent the team into the Louisiana Territory. Okay. And I think you guys will find that very interesting. And yeah, Rennes-le-Chateau is in the mix. The idea of a forgotten technology is in the mix. There are, bottom line, there are reasons why Napoleon Bonaparte um, sent that secret team into the territory. There are reasons to suspect or think that he was looking for something extraordinary. Not just now, some people would say, well, he was looking for gold and things like that. Okay. Okay. Um, if he found a gold mine, why did he sell the territory to the United States the way he did? And it's such a cheap price, you know. Um, it is more logical that he sold the territory when he was done with it off quick because he did need the funds, to fund the things we know that he was doing, he and France were doing. Um, if he was looking for and had found gold mines, he never would have sold that territory. He would have kept it and sent people in there to work those mines. Okay. So he was looking for, believe me, they're always looking for gold. Okay. In this era, they're always looking for gold. They're always keeping an eye out for gold. And if they find it, great. That's wonderful. But he was looking for something else. This is where I go in the Esoteric Napoleon Volume 2. And I've shared some little tidbits with you, like Jefferson providing Lewis with the cipher. And you'll see the wording right out of Jefferson's own hand, putting Lewis on a secret mission. It's there. I lay it out in the book. He did it. And I'll tell you, it corroborates when you read the journals. 18 instances I cite in the book of Lewis being off and away, and we don't know what he's doing for days each time. And we are never told exactly everywhere he went, or even if we're told at all, and we're not told what he did, what he found, or whatever. Now, think about it. This is the guy who Jefferson gave the cipher to. Oh, and he told him, get it, you're authorized, have a runner. When you write me the cipher letter, have it sealed up properly, have the runner get it to Cahokia, where there was a French settlement, by the way, and they'll get it in the system to get it transported. This is in the days before the Pony Express, but you get the idea. They'll get it to Jefferson as soon as they possibly can. So Lewis, folks, is a mystery in the Lewis and Clark expedition. He really is. And isn't it interesting that he's the one that died under very curious circumstances, which I'm in the camp that thinks it was murder. Meriwether Lewis, it's like the Epstein thing, right? Come on. If you give an honest read to the Meriwether Lewis story, and you still come away thinking he committed suicide, you probably also think that Oswald acted alone, but that's up to you. I don't. But you read this Lewis and Clark expedition. Look at that. Look at that. I've got that one there, all those notes. Almost the same thing with this one here. And it just amazed me. Malia will tell you over the year that I poured through these and did follow-up and stuff, I was just laughing every time. I'm like, here it is again, Malia. Captain Lewis goes off, either alone or with these couple of guys or whatever. Yeah, there was something just as esoterically intriguing to Thomas Jefferson and Meriwether Lewis about the Louisiana Territory as there was to Napoleon Bonaparte. And there she is. Oh, we don't hear.
I guess if you say my name 3 times, I'll appear. Or I've heard. So here I am. Happy
Halloween! You got your Halloween
everyone.
decoration on there, huh?
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. It's October.
Mm-hmm.
We love
I
Halloween.
Love Halloween.
Yes,
we do.
A little over a week away from the wonderful day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so you just dropped some bombshells there. I didn't know if you were going to bring up the Cahokia
Oh yeah,
connection.
Cahokia. Well, that's an obvious one. People kind of expect you to, to acknowledge that Cahokia, is a mystery, and I do think that it is one of the ruins of a lost of a civilization who came here, and it was a colony, whatever you want to call it, and I think it's one of the remnants of this forgotten time, which I currently lean towards being, that way proto ancient, whatever you want to call it, Vedic civilization.
Yeah.
But as you know, because you know things that you're not going to say, that I've told you about this research and book over the last year and a half. That there are a couple of other interesting possibilities that I think you guys are going to find fascinating. The readers are going to find fascinating, that I think were strong possible motives for Napoleon wanting to know what was in the Louisiana Territory, and in some cases, so it's kind of. I mean, I hope this has been interesting to everybody, because I want to talk around some stuff, because folks, it's in the book. I don't want to deprive anyone of the experience of reading the book, which you can, again, go to walterbosley.com and you can pre-order it right now. And it's $3 cheaper now to do it than when it's officially released. So, get your copy ordered, today. But anyway, my gosh, I've been going on an hour. Do you think it's been informative enough?
Go here. And if for any reason somebody tries to come into walterbosley.com and you get an error page or something, please send us an email at contact@walterbosley.com and let me know, because I don't know unless you tell me that things like that are going on, something weird. So, the only reason I even say that, Walter, is because some weird glitch happened and I opened my Google browser, which I never do, and I went to walterbosley.com and it gave me some weird error I have never seen before.
Oh gosh.
So I just if this happens to you, let me know what browser you're using, and that it happened. I got through it. Just a heads up, I got through it by just typing in the /shop. So walterbosley.com/shop, and then it was fine. It worked just fine. So
we'll scroll this up so people can see those mugs.
Yeah, the mugs you're talking about. So
I tell you, the travel mug's cool. I really love the green one there too. That's just such. I like those colors. I like
I liked
Del
this style the best, right? The green with the red. Yeah, but there's multiple colors you can pick from. Mm-hmm. It's trying to load here. Hang on, let me stop my cam. That might make it work better, but as usual, my internet's glitching. Oh, here we go. It's kind of coming up. But there we go. So you can see it says Nimzicon
nice 2024. You got the travel tumbler.
See how bad my internet is glitching, guys? I'm not kidding when I say it glitches so bad. And there's nothing, that's the thing that gets me. There's absolutely, I can't just go out and buy something to fix this, except Starlink. But does somebody want to donate me a Starlink?
Right. The Starlink subscription ain't cheap. That's for sure. That's for sure. Nothing is.
Somebody donate it.
We're all in that same boat of hurt going on right now. Is everybody's everybody's doing what they got to do.
But my favorite is this Crazy Wild t-shirt, and the story behind the image here that I picked. This is Major Schroeder, who was among the first flight. And like one of the main reasons, I don't know if you guys can see here, this hand in the clouds with the airplane flying through the hand. So this is like first flight. Um, one of the things that he did was just like totally wild. Survived it, dropped out. He flew the highest. He broke the first records for flying the highest. Is what he did, and the first time he did it, it's just freaking wild. So we picked him, the guy who is inspired by Delchau. Now Delchau drew this. In what we found it in one of his images.
Yeah, folks, this image you're looking at of the sepia colored of Major Schroeder there and all that. That's from one of Delchau's journal books. Okay, he had that image you're looking at in one of his books. This is from Delchau's work.
Right. I thought it was super cool, but you guys tell me if it's like you guys think it's abhorrently ugly. I keep telling Walter this like every morning. If you guys absolutely hate it, tell me that too. Like, be nice about it. But like, I want to know, this is weird designs, and we're trying to think outside of the box here a little bit and beat through the corporatism. But you guys said, hey, we want merchandise for NIMSACon. So I'm like totally disillusioned with merchandise, but here you go.
Well, we're going to be coming out with a lot more designs and stuff. Hey, scroll up so they can see the link to the book, Esoteric Napoleon 2.
Yes.
Go to waltbosley.com/shop and you can pre-order your copy. But thank you for showing those, because I want people to know that the page is out there. There it is, Esoteric Napoleon 2, 1995. As you can see, it's going to be more than that when it's released. It's going to be about $22 after it's released. So, get your copy now.
Super easy.
It's like I've been saying for this first hour is, Napoleon was looking for what the secret, things like what the secret to Cahokia was. Remember, Cahokia had become a French property, and a major French settlement had been established at the site of Cahokia back in, these days, 17th, 18th centuries. And, Napoleon was very much interested in India and ancient India. And there he is staging, a major, what would be the major staging area for expeditions, diplomatic expeditions and trade expeditions between, the Americas and India. Okay. He was fascinated. So isn't it interesting that we, today, some of us have reason to suspect that this Vedic empire, this long ago Vedic empire, was global in its reach. Okay. And here you have Napoleon very much interested in India and ancient civilizations and these lost esoteric technologies. And here he goes sending a secret team into North America, into the Louisiana Territory, where, as I point out in the book, very specifically in a couple of instances, there was evidence for the Vedic influence. Okay. You will see in the book specifically what I'm talking about. Okay. That is easily interpreted as being Vedic in its origin. Okay. Hindu, not Phoenician, not Egyptian. Although I have no problem with the Phoenicians reaching North America. There's evidence that they were doing mining in the Great Lakes region. Okay. But how would the Phoenicians have known to get there? Well, maybe they learned it from the previous Vedic civilization sources. Okay. Yeah, and we know the Kham Empire was comprised of, where'd she go? She disappeared. The Kham Empire, they included, they were comprised of, the Hindu civilization in India, Egyptians, the folks from Siam, which we know as Thailand and Laos and Cambodia today, and others in that part of the world, all coming together under this Kham Empire, which was a descendant civilization of this long ago Vedic empire of the days of the lore of the Mahabharata, the days of Atlantis, I like to say. So I think, and I lay it out in the book, as I said, I think that Napoleon had every reason to suspect that he would find evidence. Now, perhaps he was looking for something to present in his diplomatic overtures to India. I mean, think about it. What if he had positively identified a Vedic presence in the past in North America, and he could then go to the Moguls in India and present, I have found one of your colonies. France owns this. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if he had gone to India and as a diplomatic move, okay, an offering, he offered Louisiana to India. Imagine that. Or a portion of it to India. That would have been really, that's a spin that we've never thought of before. Okay? I mean, think about that. We just don't know for sure. And that's where we're afforded the margin to pull those threads of speculation. If it's possible, it has to be considered. That's my opinion. That's my position. You guys know that. If it's possible, it has to be considered. So these are the kinds of things I go into in Esoteric Napoleon 2. And I think that if you haven't read Volume 1, you're going to come away with a different opinion of Napoleon Bonaparte than maybe you have now. And when you read the second book, if you do, you'll see how what's in the first book really does back up what I'm proposing in Volume 2. So I'll tell you, look, I could go on for another 2 hours and I could share all the little juicy tidbits that I found, but I write books and I put my books are my reports of investigation, essentially. All the research, the months and months, the volumes of books that I read, and I put it together, and it's my analysis. It's the fruit of my labor. And having it in the book form, I think is ultimately the best. Better than me just telling you all this stuff on a video, because when you have it in book form, you can make notes, you can go back to it at your own, you're doing some other research, you go back to the book, so that's why the book has value, and I keep it that way by keeping some stuff for you to enjoy during the read. So I hope that your appetite is whetted to read the Esoteric Napoleon 2. And with that, I want to open up questions. Now, if you've been asking questions before this moment, you're going to have to ask it again. If you're new here, we hold the questions until I open it up for questions, and your comments or questions must be in all caps if you want me to acknowledge the comment or answer the question. There's a lot of side conversations that go on in live chat, and by you putting it in all caps, I know you're talking to me. Okay, so let's go to the live chat. Megalithic Yard says, Volume 1 definitely changed my mind about Napoleon. Right? I'm telling you. Griffin Eagle 7. Would the Lewis and Clark expedition in a period... Okay, wait a minute. Griffin Eagle, would you please re-ask that in a more coherent manner? because I don't know if that's a comment or a question, or because when I see the wood in there, I'm assuming that's a question. As Johnny Side says, all questions in caps, please be on topic and please be coherent. Junk Banks. Welcome, Junk Banks. The Secret History of Twin Peaks by Mark Frost has a section of the book that is about the correspondence between Lewis and Jefferson. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Junk Banks. See, I'm telling you, I'm not the only one who noticed this. Oh, there she is. There she is.
I think it's going to work now. We'll see.
Good. Nicken, thoughts on Lewis faking his demise? Would there be any real reason to do so? Here's the thing. They found his body. They've got his body. They found his body. He's dead. But I agree that it was murder. I agree with the forensics experts in the 1990s and people in his time. Just because Jefferson said, I think it was suicide, you got to think about something. Nicholas Biddle, and the circles that he was in were not any philosophical friend of Thomas Jefferson. Okay. And if he saw Lewis being murdered for whatever reason, okay, maybe Jefferson just publicly said, yeah, it was suicide to keep himself alive. I've not heard anybody consider that. Jefferson was smarter than that to just go along with it was suicide. Jefferson might have been watching out for his own skin and his family, too. Might have been protecting himself by going along with the suicide conclusion. So, any idea if Cahokia is on a line with American Stonehenge site? I'd have to take a look at the maps there, Nick. Now, what were you saying, Malia, about what's working now?
Oh, just my internet. Hopefully it won't sketch out again on me. But if it does, that's what's going on. Why just pure glitch.
She's not getting bored with us. It's the internet there where she's at.
Just so like everyone knows too, I would love to make tiki mugs, but unfortunately that's not something that like Printify or something where I can design and put it out there for you guys. Yeah. I think with tiki mugs, it's a lot more complicated. I may be wrong on that. If somebody wants to correct me, feel more than happy to do so. Because I sure would love to. That would be super fun if we could like create and design tiki mugs. But I don't know what kind of like time and effort would need to go into that.
We've got
and resources like that. If it takes like a huge investment or really, even anything more than what, Walter, like it just right now, I don't know if it's economy wise or what
it's part of that. Like one thing we want we want to take advantage of 3D printing technology as soon as we can, because then we can do some really cool
You've had
stuff.
some fun ideas.
Yeah. Dorian Lee
mugs, I think, are like custom made, right? I don't know how they're even
they are
put together.
They
with the mold, and
they definitely are.
Yeah,
Dorian Lee at the time of the Lewis and Clark expeditions, did Jefferson suddenly drop everything for urgent business? That would be a good angle to look at. I have not yet found the Jefferson, any kind of even what hints at a Jeffersonian response to potential dispatches, secret dispatches. So, Griffin Eagle 7, would they have been in a position to gather stories from tribes in a period of history that could never be repeated in later history? What stories were shared to them in confidence so as giants? Well, there were giants discussed. I mean, we know that's kind of out there. And there are some very interesting things along those lines that I talk about in volume 2 that you'll read, that the Lewis and Clark expedition was told by the natives they encountered. In some instances, they got it from the Mandans. There is some interesting things about the Mandans, what their origin might have been. But they learned some things that I don't want to give too much up that are kind of in the same category as giants. It's some really, I'm telling you, the journals, I'm surprised that the things that got through Biddle. It's interesting that Biddle, in my opinion, allowed some things to get through. But
well, it makes me wonder if some of the things that Biddle was, keying in on, and his reputation was kind of lazy as it was, especially when it came to journal work and things. That's why it was so preposterous at the time for him to be an editor. Did you know that?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, let me give you the name of the guy, because this is the guy that did more of the work than Biddle did. Let me see if it's in the front here. It's in the book. I talk about him in the book. Yeah. Gosh darn a Rudy. It might be in the. There is a guy who Biddle relied heavily on, who probably is the one that did most of it, which would, Malia, I'm glad you brought that up, because that would explain how some things got through. It's my opinion that Biddle would have been the official editor to keep some things from getting through, or get this. Here's another thing that I pose in the book.
Like possibly he have a keyword target list. Some certain things.
Something the 19th century, 18th century version of that. But the other thing Biddle could have been doing was wanting to hoping to get access to Lewis's secret journals, but he never did. So his focus wasn't so much on suppressing everything that was in the one that got published, more so than let's see what Lewis found, right? And since he didn't get access to that, he kind of just let the journals happen as they did. It's I think that Lewis was murdered, and it had everything to do with stuff that he was secretly finding in the Louisiana Territory. Something somebody did not want out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Exactly. Like, even just not even theorizing it or realizing, back when I was reading a lot of Lewis and Clark several years ago, before I met you, Walter, even, it was, I was just like, this guy was unalived. He was purposefully taken out of the picture because what he was doing was not in line with the narrative of the time.
Well, with the narrative of the controllers.
Well, okay, so historically speaking, in this time, there's not a lot of sentiment to natives. Okay, there's not a lot of reasons why natives would have been important to preserve. Native stories, oral legend, oral history, and that is what he was doing.
I see.
He was not only preserving Sacagawea's history and what she was showing him, but he had to have been so intrigued by what she showed him, which is, among the stories, the things which she identified was because she had vision that he was coming, and she was explained to her that this is what she was going to need to do, and show him the herbs and the trees and how to live here and what can eat, what you can't eat, how to travel from place to place, because these are all the things that are going to be important to their culture, right? In understanding. So to have the other guy, who we think is the unaliver here, he's the complete opposite of all of that. He's not interested. You can read it in the journals. It comes across so clear. He's not interested in the land, except in the resources. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Well, he's Clark interested in the resources and what kind of things he can take out of the land.
Yeah, that was his understanding of his job. He just kept there was the scientific query. Now, what a lot of people don't understand, Malia, that you learn when you dig into this, and particularly when you dig into from the Jefferson angle in the National Archives, is that, did we lose her?
I'm
is
still
that,
here. It's just
oh, there you are.
I can't.
No, but I'm glad you brought that up because Jefferson, to an extent, it's not that the science part wasn't important, wasn't a very important part of the expedition, but Jefferson was using the scientific angle as a diplomatic cover to camouflage anything that would have been of political or military concern to Spain. Okay. And this is talked about in the National Archives stuff. Jefferson wanted it to be presented as, oh, this is just purely scientific and historical. And in those days, they labeled it literary. Oh, he wanted Spain to, oh, this is just a literary expedition for science and botany and zoology and geography and geology, all that stuff. And so Clark, yeah, he was the one who was left to make sure that that was done and, everything moved along, while Lewis was on the real mission from Jefferson. And here's the thing. Yeah, Jefferson could have sent Lewis to also look for gold, and I'm sure they were doing that anyway. But I think Jefferson, A, was curious about what Napoleon might have been, curious about in the territory. And B, if there was something of historical value, remember, knowledge being power, knowledge being leverage, we would have our hands on it before the British could get to it, before Spain, that kind of thing. But other than any obvious diplomatic things or military value or material resource value, there had to be the historical. And when I say the historical, I mean the historical mysteries. Who really was here before, the native histories, the native tribal histories. So you bring up a good point. Yeah, Clark was there for the material. Lewis was there for the real juicy stuff. Griffin Eagle. Okay, we already did that one. Here we go. Griffin Eagle 7. Why is Sasquatch big in American psyche? Only talked about by American Indians and Americans this century. Could it be answered because there's no... I'll tell you what, I'll answer that when I do a Sasquatch show. April Christman, Napoleon and the Red Man. That's an interesting little episode you bring up, April. If you guys aren't familiar with that, you will be. Marcos Toledo. The host of Worlds Apart said there were 38 sitting U.S. presidents who had contracts on their lives while they were in office. Worlds Apart was on RT. Okay, Marcos, thanks for that lead. I want to learn more about that. Check that out. Nick N. Though it is all way earlier, wonder if Napoleon may have met up with an earlier arrow for superior fast surveying of Louisiana Purchase. Everything was all secret to begin with. So that's an intriguing idea, Nick. That is an intriguing idea. I never thought about that angle, to see if there was any reason to suspect that anyone saw an airship in 1802 over the Louisiana Territory. Good question, Nick. Very interesting. So there we have that. This has been... Oh, by the way, our friend Jan Patoshki shows up in Esoteric Napoleon Volume 2. Jan Patoshki shows up. Jefferson had one of his books in his library. This is kind of a side thing. As I was going through Jefferson's catalog, there it was, a Patoshki book, and I confirmed that it is the Jan Patoshki. For those of you who are new here, Jan Patoshki is a guy who popped up in the Burton book, Secret Missions 2. He pops up again in Veiled Destinies, and his book, A Manuscript Found in Saragossa, is something that Sir Richard Francis Burton was fascinated with. Potocki was a Polish military officer during the Napoleonic era. I talk about him in The Esoteric Napoleon and the possible connections, to Napoleon he might have had. And sure enough, a Potocki book turns up in the Jefferson Personal Library. And as I've said before, I do intend to do a Secret Missions volume on Jan Potocki. So that's coming. I've been doing research on him for a couple of years now. Where's Latitude 33 in the queue after Napoleon II? Latitude 33, there's still quite a bit of research to do for the follow-up book. But
I love that question, don't
Malia
I,
jumped
Walter?
in just at the right time because we are going to be releasing a new edition of the original Latitude 33. And when I do that, folks, I don't just reformat the inside. I don't just put a new cover art on it. I'll add an additional chapter of new information.
At least, if not several parts and pieces to each chapter.
So we'll the re-release of Latitude 33 will have some new stuff in it. And actually, as Malia, as you said that, I'm thinking, maybe I should just add the new research so far and make it a really an even bigger edition of Latitude 33.
You know me. I love that you chase the thread of the mystery around Latitude 33 and all that is. And there's so much, not like tons, but there is quite a bit to be caught up on because, Latitude 33 was before Empire of the Wheel happened. Before these things happened. That's why I'm excited to catch it up because now that research compounded and added, and we get to go to Disneyland. I have ulterior motives.
Which is costs a fortune nowadays. Oh my gosh, that's insane.
I know. Well, we can go off season and hopefully on a rainy day, so we don't have to ride any.
I love rainy days at Disney.
Right.
I like Nick's comment here. Napoleon II is giving me Burton book vibes. Yeah. You guys know that one of my personal works one of my books of my own that was, one of my favorite to write is Secret Missions 2, The Lost Expedition of Sir Richard Francis Burton. I'm very proud of the work I did on that book and this one right here. So this is why I'm real excited for you guys to read Esoteric Napoleon Volume 2. I think you guys, if you like the first one, or even if you haven't read the first one yet, I think you're going to like Volume 2. So I think I probably covered Volume 2 for today. Malia, are there any questions you have about it or comments?
About Napoleon II coming out? And no, you covered it. You did. That was awesome.
I probably told you.
That's what I was hoping. You even got into more than I thought you were going to.
Yeah, I revealed some little tidbits there, just to share with folks what turned up when I started pulling this Louisiana territory thread. And
that's, I want to say that. Sorry.
What? Go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Oh, just wanted to say that's awesome. I didn't know why it wasn't showing up there. That's awesome. Okay. Bizarre Parade.
Bizarre Parade. Copy. Oh, look at that. There's a synchronicity. Yeah. There's absolutely a synchronicity there. Folks, get your pre-orders done on Volume 2, available at walterbosley.com/shop. You're gonna like this, and you're gonna like when we re-release Latitude 33 as well, as we were just saying. But I think with Napoleon, with these first two volumes, the third, a third volume, okay, if Esoteric Napoleon Volume 3 happens, I'm going to go into more into what I think he could have done and accomplished while living here in America under his brother Joseph's identity. If you haven't read the first one, what I just said might make your jaw drop, but you need to read the first one because I talk about that. And there's some very interesting threads I left unpulled in the first volume and that weren't, for the second volume either. So, their third volume happens, it's going to be about, Napoleon in the Americas. And this was a documented historical fact that his brother Joseph begged him to switch places with him when the British were on their way to arrest him and take him off the second time. Joseph Bonaparte and Napoleon looked virtually identical, close enough to each other to pass for each other in their lifetime. And Napoleon used his brother Joseph as a security double more than once. And so this is something that the people at the time thought might have really happened. The British suspected this might have happened. This isn't something I pulled out of the air, you certainty fetish people. This is history, okay? The British suspected that he was going to do something like that. And, the United States sent a naval frigate to go bring Napoleon to the United States to protect him from the Brits. And yet history tells us that, oh no, he didn't take Joseph up on the deal. Okay. BS. I think he did. And in his own lifetime, people thought he did. I just go into the details, share the details with you in the first book. Okay. So I feel like Volume 2, there needed to be a volume dedicated to Napoleon and the Louisiana Territory, and that's what Volume 2 is. And I think you guys are really, really going to get something out of it. Let me go back to the questions here. Okay. Earlier was asked, copy again. Marsh, Oak Dojo, Tim Pruitt. What is best to read after the Secret Missions books? After the Secret Missions books, I've always kind of looked at as kind of a, separate thing. Really, Empire of the Wheel 2 and then Origin, those kind of are in order. Empire of the Wheel 2, Origin, and Nimza, How America Sold Its Soul. That's kind of a little unofficial trilogy right there. That would be in order to read those. So that's how I would do it. Read Empire of the Wheel 2. But if you're specifically on related stuff to Nimza, Del Shao, the airship mystery and all that, start with Empire of the Wheel 2, go to Origin, then read Nimza, and you'll get the thread of that. But yeah, but you will find overlap, in all my books, as I've said before. Nick N., please quickly explain why it is better to hit up your website rather than lulu.com, even though not all is there. Okay. When you go to, and thank you for asking that, Nick, and I know Malia's thanking you for asking that too. When you go to walterbosley.com, folks, I get the benefit. The royalty benefit is much better. Okay. The reason why there's not much activity, or presence on Amazon, or hasn't been, is because Amazon leaves us with pennies on the dollar. I am the author and my brand is the publisher. And when our books are bought and sold on Amazon, we get pennies on the dollar, pennies, and not very many. Okay. Now, when you buy at walterbosley.com, we get the benefit. Okay. The author and publisher gets the lion's share. That's how it should be. Okay. You're actually breaking us if you were to buy the stuff on Amazon. And, you know, Lulu.
Actually, like we've talked about, Walter, we have to equalize those sales. And so that makes the cost at Amazon have to be listed so much higher.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's a little bit less than double what it has to be listed on Amazon as what you can get it at walterbosley.com for.
And while you're on that,
okay, if you want to go pay double, go on Amazon, I guess, if you must buy from Amazon.
And it's even cheaper.
You're only going to find a handful of Walter's books.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw in there real quick. It's cheaper.
You can go, like it says.
Sorry. I just wanted to add in there that it's less expensive.
It's okay. It's my internet glitching.
Oh, it's less expensive to buy it at walterbosley.com than even at Lulu. So really, you're really helping, the author get his proper due, and you're helping us, our little label here, to get our proper due by buying at walterbosley.com. So that's why we do that, folks. And it's safe to buy there. It's not, it's not a security risk. But thank you for bringing that up. Did you wanted to finish a thought on that, Malia? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, just just that you pretty much covered it. There's quite a big, if you want to buy from Lulu, you can buy on Lulu. The stuff is listed there. You'll see some phasing out because we want some of Walter's products to only just be on Walter's website.
Yeah.
So books like Napoleon II you're never going to see it on Lulu. We're going to only list it on walterbosley.com and just kind of see if we can start to get that working, because like Walter explains, the cut that these places take is just so high. And Amazon, we don't have to pay that. And we can pass those savings on to you guys. Yeah.
I don't want my livelihood.
Crazy, but you can see it reflected. I
don't want my livelihood paying for Bezos' penis rocket. Period. Uh-oh. Where'd she go?
Right?
I
think I just have to turn my camera off while it kind of. Yeah, it's not working very well. So I'm going to step out, Walter, but cheers, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
I love when you're here. I'll talk to you in a little bit then if you're not able to pop back. Marshall says, and how Nimza is clearly explainable as an Akkadian phrase meaning man flying while buzzing, using the sign name values from the tables being put together by late 18th Prussian legacy scholarly circles. That's interesting, Marshall. Well, it's good to see you. We will see you again soon. Let's talk sometime too about stuff. Griffin Eagle, how did Ghost Hunting Night go? We instead of doing ghost hunt, no, shoot, I forgot about that. It went very interesting, but I want to save that for Malia to tell the details on. You guys remember that building that we got to look partially down the hall on last year? This year we got almost full access. Hey, Marshall Dojo Tim Pruitt has Napoleon II on pre-order. Thank you. And the only place you can get it, folks, is walterbosley.com. Good point, Marshall. The number 93 in the chat, right? So, and we have, let's see, Bizarre Parade, Jehudi Materis. Oh, we have Youngie and Laura. Hello, Youngie and Laura. We have, we had some more folks. Mr. Hamilton's here. Hey, Hamilton 747. How are you, sir? Oh, we got another Marshall. Oh, buddy, don't have some mind blowers for you? Let's make 2 of the Tuesdays and Thursdays a thing. Hey, let's try to make that happen. So, okay, let's see. I thought I answered this question, but I'll answer it again. Have read all the Secret Missions books. What would be the best to read next? Origins, Nimza, or Empire of the Wheel? Go to Empire of the Wheel 2, then read Origin, then read Nimza. That would be a good order on those. So, well, no, I'm glad. It's no problem if you missed it. I'm glad I went ahead and answered that again. So, tomorrow I'm going to be on the Paracast with Tim Swartz. And I think Gene is still on there. I don't know. It's been a while. Been a couple of years or so since I did the Paracast. Nick N asks, weren't you kind of creeped out ghost hunting after releasing the Poisonous Magnetism book? I've been aware of those kind of things, before I put out Poisonous Magnetism, which, folks, is an interesting book that my label did a classic reprint on. In fact, I think I have it right up here. Let me show it to you. Walter goes to his shelves. Don't you guys love that? When I go to the shelves? Well, let me see. I thought I had a copy of it handy. I think actually the handy one is over at Leah's house. But maybe I'm wrong. I thought I had one. Maybe it's over here. Poisonous Magnetism. Well, gosh darn it.
Poisonous Magnetism is not here. I'm in ghost form.
Alrighty, then it's somewhere over here in my stack. I wanted to show you guys the cover because it is a very interesting book that we did a classic reprint on. It was written in the 1890s by a man named John Brown, not the John Brown of Harper's Ferry, but John Brown, who came with the Mormon settlers to San Bernardino and was one of the founders of the Spiritualist Temple here. And he was a man who was interacting with entities that were not good and threatened him and others in the San Bernardino community. And it was kind of eerie and creepy. And that's what Nick is referring to. Let me see if I can, gosh darn it, find my copy, because the cover of that book, I like the cover that I put on it. And, oh, well, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I'll show it to you guys next time. But you can see it online. Malia, is that one at walterbosley.com or is that one of the direct Lulu books?
That one's on Lulu. So our intention is to activate Lost Continent Library, and that will be where we house and sell reprints and other authors we publish, because a lot of people don't know, Walter, that you publish other authors. And I don't know if right now would be a good time to talk about your the idea we've been kind of hashing out about a writer's retreat.
Yes, I'll tell them. I'll share that with them.
Okay, because I think it's relevant to what you're working on and what you said today.
Yeah.
Go.
I'm going to Malia and I have been talking about, because people really enjoyed the NIMSAcons that we put on, and we're doing a third one of those. And what I'm thinking about doing is, for those of you who are writers already, or prospective writers, or thinking about you'd like to be a writer, I'm going to offer, a kind of a writer's workshop. And this is what you were talking about, right?
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Yes. The writer's workshop. And actually, with the workshop, one of the perks of participating in that, going to that, coming out here to it, because we're thinking about doing it in the mountains here, but there's other locations. One of the perks is that I'm thinking about publishing a book which would include a chapter or a story from each one of the attendees of the workshop. So you would get something published in kind of like an anthology book, of the writer attendees, including, it would have a selection from myself. It would have a selection from the guest writer speakers that would be, presenting there. And so you would be, potentially, you'd be published in an anthology book, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, with myself and other authors. But you would also be considered, a work of yours would be considered for publication. Okay, this is what we're talking about. So what I'm trying to say is, the kind of workshop that I want to offer is something that you don't just throw your money at it and oh, try this, do that, or whatever. Good luck. Thanks for coming to my workshop. No, I really want it to result in something of yours being published, but also a legitimate opportunity to submit and be, seriously considered, to have your own book. This is not a vanity press situation. Okay. You would be getting, like a 5-day workshop for your investment in the workshop, where you'd be taught and learn things. Okay. But nobody pays me to publish their works. Okay. Any of the authors I publish will tell you that. Nobody's
Right.
ever.
But our long timers know the gravity of this, because for Walter, for years, you've said, nope, I'm not taking on any more authors. The ones I have is it. Don't send me subscription sheets. None of the above.
Oh yeah, no,
Right?
no. What do they call that? Submissions.
Yeah.
And I am not.
So,
I'm not officially. I'm not accepting submissions either. Even at this time,
no,
I've been very selective. But
that's not what we're saying. We're saying, a different way to kind of go about doing this. Right?
Yeah. So doing what we're thinking about working as part of a perk of the workshop is, as I said, it would be one book, which the idea is, the intention is there to publish it and include, as I said, a chapter or a short story by each of the attendees. Okay. But also, you would be, at the end of it, one of the perks you'd get is you could submit for consideration of publication, and I would, read those, and if they meet the criteria for publication, then I would publish it, and you'd have it's small press stuff, folks. Micro press, small press. There's no advances or anything. But you wouldn't have to pay a dime to do this, to submit for the submission. You'd be paying for the workshop. So I want that to be clear, because some people would run with that.
Yeah, exactly.
be inaccurate for it, with it. But it's a way for me to encourage writers out there. Let me tell you about the workshop, because that's what you'd be getting for your, if you joined the workshop. If you paid to go to the workshop, it'd be a 5-day thing. And it would be, we're looking at either in Big Bear Lake or Lake Arrowhead. I prefer Big Bear. There's just more there. And there would be guest writer speakers. There'd be myself teaching you everything I know. Okay. And it would be comfortable, in comfortable surroundings. And there'd be plenty of downtime, because writers, you need the downtime to work on these things. And so that's what you'd get. It's like a little retreat. It's the workshop part of the day. And then the rest of the day, you get to spend around Big Bear Lake, go to restaurants, go to a movie, do this, that, or the other, shopping, what have you, sitting there navel gazing, looking out at, the lake, doing whatever you want to do, the kind of things that writers do, to get the mind going. Or you could spend it all writing, but like I said, one of the perks would be, getting published in an anthology that would include all the attendees. And I think it's something that, those of you who are writers or want to be writers might really enjoy. So there's that. We'll be putting out more details on that soon.
Yeah, so it would, just to kind of give folks an idea, it's something where we've identified a location up in Arrowhead or Big Bear, popular destination for doing retreats and stuff. And that we think is, ideal for the kind of environment for writers and stuff. We've stayed up here a couple of times. There's plenty of room for, everyone. And
That's the other thing. What Malia's saying right there, Malia, explain to them that it would be in, we would all be in the same location. It would be like one of these, like you said,
no caravanning or anything.
Yeah, there's not.
We'd all be concentric in the same place. Pretty much do the conference, or it's not a conference, the workshop.
Nick N says, assume the workshop would be loosely themed. The only theme about it is I would be teaching both thing. It'd be me, giving a workshop on writing. Now,
it's script writing, right?
Well,
among other things.
A general workshop would be fiction, nonfiction, and screenwriting, where I've worked out 2 plans. I've worked out one where, it's like, okay, if you're writing nonfiction, this, that, and the other. Okay, today we're talking about if you're writing a novel, tomorrow we're talking about if you're writing a screenplay, that kind of thing. Or, after that, I could do one just on screenwriting or one just on novels or whatever. But this first one would be, the theme is writing nonfiction, fiction, or screenplays. So writing would be the theme. So.
Right.
And people seem to be liking this idea.
Yeah, I think it would be way fun. Like I said, it's just, it's a very interesting, conducive environment is what I'm trying to say to writing.
Yes.
Not only do you have 2 serious writers here and editors and publishers, and Walter and I have been doing this for a combined 4 decades, if not 5, in a professional environment. So he's got some tips that he was sharing with me. This is how this idea kind of came about. He was sharing with me different ways he goes about writing. I'm like, this is it. You take 100 English classes, and I've taken plenty of them and been in writers groups, et cetera, et cetera. But, the way Walter breaks it down simply enough and this is, you keep by doing it this way, and look, it's a formula that works. And I'm like, you got to share this.
Well,
And I
thank you.
know
Yeah.
there's writers out there that would love to know how to get that first person realism coming through in that instant moment that is so absolutely necessary for script writing.
Well, and also I have
And
to say
others,
that the
but
the
it
the
begins there.
way, even with the nonfiction writing, I think I can teach some writers, the way I go about nonfiction, things that would be very valuable to them as a nonfiction writer, a researcher, and
Well,
things like
and not
that.
just that, there's the attraction too, I believe, of, you know, I don't think it's going to be very difficult to invite David West. And, we have a few other
Well,
friends that
let's
are
let's not. But
probably,
let's we want to hold on to who we
I'm just
might.
totally seeing Dave West there and some others. But we've had him on. Go check out his
That
show. It was great.
that's what we don't want to reveal is who, because there's others too. David West is on our list of
Well,
folks we'd like to
there's
have
exactly.
participate.
That's all I'm just trying to, most recent. We have so many authors we've had on this show over the past couple of
Well,
years,
and there's
and
others who haven't been on the show that we could reach out to as well. That would be kind of a
right,
turn
that
on.
we haven't even got to really
Yeah.
exactly. There are others.
Well, look at this. We're at 2 hours and 3 minutes. Wow, I went longer than I thought. That's good, and the crowd has stayed with us, Malia. What do you think of that?
Hey,
What?
it's Wednesday. We are over hump day.
There we go. There we go. Nick N asks,
Tomorrow's,
go ahead.
tomorrow's Thursday.
Yes. Nick N
Sitting
asks if there's any more model progress, even if it's just thinking about them. Well, yeah, as I told you, I painted the dinosaur, and I'm putting together the achronoplane, which is right here. This is the one that it's drying right now. I had to use some putty and stuff, but this one here that you sent, and the dinosaur is with the King Kong on the shelf, and I'm steadily working away at them, Nick. And those goggles that you sent, the magnifying goggles, those are fantastic, along with all the other stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, well, Malia, what do you think? Do you think they've had enough Walter Bosley today?
Well, I can't answer that. That's not fair.
I know you have, right? Yeah. She's like, oh my God.
No, I get more of you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You will call and we'll get to talk more.
Yep.
But
And,
definitely a synchronistic and paranormal day we had today.
yes, we did. And you know what?
Went on
Here,
some
by the way,
discoveries.
there was a question while you were out that I think we need to, what we did today and what this question is about. You and I need to do an episode together talking about our ghost hunting night at NimsaCon and what we did today. So you want to do that maybe this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
folks,
we
if
can
you're
do
interested
that.
in a Friday or Saturday episode, Malia, which night would be better, Friday or Saturday or day?
Well, I've got you. That's perfect. Friday.
Friday?
Yeah,
Okay, folks,
probably.
if you want to hear us tell you about the ghost hunting night during NimsaCon in the big dome building, and then today, what Malia turned me on to today, and what we did
This
today.
is so weird, Walter, and we've got to my head has to really wrap around what
Yeah.
we found.
Well, that you'll have a couple of days to do that, and so we'll be back Friday with a special episode talking about the paranormal stuff that we did recently. And for now, folks, if you're interested at all in this esoteric Napoleon stuff, go get the first volume right now at walterbosley.com and go ahead and get your pre-order on the Esoteric Napoleon Volume 2, available only at walterbosley.com. Same as this. only at walterbosley.com. Get your pre-orders in, folks. Get them in. And we thank you for going directly to walterbosley.com, because we get what is our due, royalty when you get it at the site, walterbosley.com/shop. So Malia has worked very, very hard to get that site up, and really, you guys know that the channel here has expanded greatly. The production values. Look at what we're doing now with how things are set up. You guys know I wasn't doing things this way. It was me in front of a wrinkly piece of felt stretched behind me in my bedroom. Okay, that's what this show was before Malia came along, and now look what we got. It looks all professional.
We've made some progress.
We
still have a lot of progress to go.
But you've really leaped forward what I do here, what I was doing here. So, folks, believe me,
it's a joint venture.
What's that?
It's a joint venture because, Walter, you're a unique person to to depend on for work, because, I've talked about, most men, it's just the woman boss doesn't work very well. They just, oh my gosh, it can be a headache sometimes. And you get, if I say, hey, let's do this, you get the work done. And I really appreciate that about you. It's cool. I'm not getting all juicy, but
I still got a lot more to do. A lot more to do, but
I can't wait for Napoleon to come. I'm so excited we got him to do Napoleon.
Esoteric Napoleon 2. I'm getting more energized by it, every day. So I can't wait for you guys to read it, and seriously, save a few bucks, get it in pre-order. And I thank you all for hanging out for, my gosh, I went 2 hours and 10 minutes tonight, and people hung in there. So thank you. And we will see you Friday night.
Yep.
Okay. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you then.
Oh, Friday, rough time